Hi, this is Louis Perkins, the president at the Apparel Impact Institute, and we are back for another episode of our climate conversations. Today, we are going to be focusing in on an exciting program that we are really engaged with at Apparel Impact Institute in terms of creating greater efficiencies within the apparel supply chain. Again, the purpose of our podcast is really to introduce our audience to the number of programs and initiatives that we're funding through our climate solutions portfolio. And as Apparel Impact Institute is identifying best-in-class programs, solutions, ventures that can be used by the apparel supply chain to decarbonize production, we're also raising funds that we apply towards that funding, and we are scaling and measuring the work. And so today we're going to lean in a little bit on a very specific program that is the Cleaner Production System. So with that, I'd like to welcome Arindam, who's joining us from PwC. Hello, welcome.
Hi.
Phil Patterson, who's also joining us from our advisory council. Hi, Phil.
Hello, hi guys.
And Pauline, who you've met on previous podcast episodes, who is joining us from the Apparel Impact Institute's team, really helping us lead this work with the Climate Solutions portfolio. I'm just going to jump in a little bit and ask each one of you to give a little bit more introduction about yourself, who you are, and what brings you to this work. So, Arindam, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you're brought to this work.
I'm a textile engineer by my educational background, and in my professional career also, I have spent close to now 25 years with this industry. So I started with the textile machinery division of one of the machinery supplier. Then I moved to production, I moved to marketing, branding, and then I moved to consulting. So many times I proudly say that I'm not a born consultant. I have gone through the processes and then came to the consulting. I lead the textile, apparel, and leather sector advisory from PwC India. We are fortunate that our entry has been selected by AI. We are really proud of it to join hand with AI in this fantastic journey, and target. It's a steep target which AI has taken. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to add value to your journey.
We're excited to have you with us. And I, as I listen to you talk, it just reminds me that when we launched this work, we really thought, wouldn't it be great if we could bring all this expertise together that AII's team and staff alone, has a lot of experience, but the better way to go about this is to identify all of the players that are out there working on decarbonization and water stewardship and chemical management and all the other important environmental impacts that are happening in the supply chain, and bring those experts together in this sort of center of gravity. It's exciting to have you now in this family of partners that we're working with and your colleagues to really help expand the expertise. So thank you for being a part of it. And we're really glad that this program is now in our portfolio as well. Tell me, where are you logging in from today on our podcast?
Right now, I'm in the eastern part of India. Today only, I have just come back from Bangladesh. So there were a couple of projects going on, and Bangladesh is also one of our focus country for this particular project as well. So India and Bangladesh is our focus country. I was there, connected with few large companies. And happy to inform you that some of the large companies are really interested to be part of this program. So hopefully we'll have a fantastic lineup of factories who will be participating in it.
And I appreciate you bringing in the regional focus as well too, because the origin of AII's work with NRDC and the Clean by Design program really started in China. And so we have such a great legacy and a team that's been working there. But we've known over the last 5 years, as we've been building out our scope and scale, that India and Bangladesh will increasingly be regions of great importance to this work. There's other regions we're focusing on. But for listeners who are following these podcasts, they're going to see a trend that a lot of this first wave of work is really emphasizing the opportunities that are happening in both India and Bangladesh. And so this is another one of those great projects that's helping us bring partnership and expertise into the regions that's already there, but bring it into this total portfolio approach. So with that, I'm going to introduce Phil Patterson. And Phil, talk about expertise. I feel so honored with AII that you are working with us and bringing your knowledge and expertise. And as I talked about, bringing together this center of gravity or this sort of group of experts. One of the other terms that we were tasked with early on when we were conceptualizing putting together the climate solutions portfolio is to create an intellectual clearinghouse of good programs and projects that meet criteria for decarbonization and other things. And so I really think of you as being part of that intellectual clearinghouse process, which is to bring together a great expertise. And we've heard in previous podcasts from Dr. Linda Greer, and I think many people that are in the apparel sector and have been working on sustainability have gotten to know Linda over the years. And I feel like we've found another great person to bring into the AI fold to expand with that sort of same level of knowledge and leadership in the space. So I'm kind of giving you your own intro there. But Phil, tell us a little about, with all of that, who are you and how do you come to this work?
A long time ago, I got a degree in colour chemistry from the University of Leeds in the UK. I worked in the dyeing industry for about 9 years, and then I worked for Marks and Spencer as their dyeing, printing and finishing manager for 10 years. And that role was really on the interface of the retailer and the industry and the supply chain. For the last 16 years, I've been an independent consultant, and a lot of that work is sitting on that interface between brands and industry. And my work is really in three parts. It's technical support for people to make sure products meet the specifications that are required by the customers. A third of it is restricted substances, and a third of it is on sustainability, which in our world of wet processing, where I'm a specialist, is using less water, using less energy, using less chemicals. So I was absolutely delighted to be asked to join you to work on this project, working on energy reductions, because it's just the right thing to do. It's common sense. And I think you build me up a little bit too much on the academic and intellectual side. I think I'm fairly pragmatic, and I think that's what I probably bring to the party, my industry expertise to help see what is a practical solution and what is merely interesting science, which may be brilliant science, but may not get anywhere. So what we're looking for, obviously, with the climate solutions portfolio are solutions that make a big change, and a big change quickly.
The way that you're working with us is as a member of our Climate Solutions Portfolio Advisory Council, and we've assembled that group to be third party to our staff and team in the decision making and process around which programs and solutions we pull into the portfolio. Not only the ones that might receive grant funding or we may partner to support with financially, but also just, as we increase that portfolio of solutions. And you're joined by, I mentioned Dr. Linda Greer earlier, but we have representatives from expertise on the brand side, the supplier side, and others and team members at AII who also have knowledgeable backgrounds working in the sector. I think you all just had a meeting this last week. Were you part of that meeting as well? And you all were getting together as an advisory council, and don't tell the secrets, but hopefully, how did that go? Do you feel good about the continued way in which this committee is working?
Oh, very much so. I mean, we're basing all our decisions on data, or where we've got good data. Obviously, not all information is available in all cases, but we're doing it as objectively as we can. We're doing this as a team, making decisions based on what we think is essentially best for the planet. That's really what it comes down to. What is going to make the biggest change soonest? So this week we've had discussions about the next phase, where we are giving grants for essentially research projects to fill some of the gaps in understanding. But we've also been looking at the wider framework. So as well as the grants, we're building a registry of solutions, because many of the solutions exist out there. So what we're doing is we're trying to get people with existing best available technology to get that in our registry, so that people who are genuinely interested in making a positive change know where to go to look for solutions. So yeah, really productive meetings, really great. Of course we live in Zoom land, so it's great to be face to face with our friends on the committee.
There is critical research that has to be done sometimes to get the carbon out, to know where the carbon is, or to know what's out there from a solution perspective. Sometimes there's a gap between what we know today, what we need to know in order to actually better select and activate. And so I think that's you all are wisely seeing where there's more information that's needed before we can make informed decisions around what could go into the portfolio, what should go into it, and what's available, right? Pauline, you've been in some previous podcasts, so if we have some consistent listeners, they're going to already know about you, but I'd like to just step back for any new listeners. You're a member of our staff and team, and I always feel like good leadership means you bring the smarter people than yourself into all the conversations. And so that's definitely why I have you here to help support, not only me, but our organization as a whole in the process of determining, what are the programs that this organization is going to bring into the Climate Solutions portfolio, specifically looking at this criteria of effectiveness, reach, and scale. So tell us a little bit. Who are you again, and your role at AII?
I am the environmental portfolio lead for AII, and I oversee the Climate Solutions portfolio grant application process, as well as the kind of grant management once we then award those projects as well. And a big part of my role is also facilitating the advisory council. So on Monday, kind of guiding our experts to get to a decision, and hosting those workshops to make sure that we can all work really effectively and strategically together.
Phil, I forgot to ask you, but I think I know. So you all were meeting during the Textile Exchange meetings in London. So Phil, you're based in the UK. So are you in London still, or are you at home? Or
I'm at home. I'm in a beautiful little town called Matlock, which is about 90 minutes southeast of Manchester.
And then Pauline, I know you were in London this week. Normally you sit in Amsterdam and work sometimes from the Fashion for Good Center, but today you're coming in from a nice location. Even though we're looking at your white walls behind you, it's a beautiful setting. Where are you?
I'm in Sicily. Yeah.
Fantastic. Good. So we're representing a global group here, and I'm in Oakland, California today, and soon back out on the road. All right, so let's dive into this particular program. Thanks everybody for giving a little level setting for our listeners. So Arindam, you've told us a little bit about your background, and you started to lead into the solution and the program that we're talking about today, which is the Cleaner Production System. So tell us a little bit about what is it, which tiers of the supply chain is it addressing? And I think you already told us which regions, India and Bangladesh. Tell us a little bit more about this particular project and what it's going to do.
So as its name suggests, cleaner production, the overall objective of this particular project is that we will look at each part of the production system, and we will identify opportunities for reducing GHG emission. So in one line, that's our project. And then not only we will recommend, we will handhold the industry for 6 to 9 months, depending on the complexity of the suggestion or the scale of the implementation. And we will keep on measuring the improvement. If some course correction is required in between, we will help them to do it. And finally, at the end of this almost 1 year engagement, we would like to see definitely some improvement. So we have done some rough calculation, and we believe that 5 to 12% of GHG emission reduction is possible through this particular project. And I believe that's a substantial number. So if I go a bit more detail, uh, first we have some standard formats for each part of the value chain. Now, telling about the value chain, we are covering starting from fiber manufacturing to finished fabric manufacturing. So what it covers, if it is synthetic fiber, maybe synthetic fiber production unit, or if it is a natural fiber, even ginning in case of cotton can also be included into it. The next big part is spinning. Spinning of short staple fibers, I will say. Moving to the weaving or knitting, and then its processing. Definitely, there can be some fiber dyeing also, that there can be some yarn dyeing also, and finally it comes to the finishing stage. So that's the overall value chain which we'll be covering. As I said that we have first some formats for collecting the basic information about the company, about their products, process, about some of the basic elements of energy consumption, water consumption, chemical, what type of chemicals they're using, such kind of information. With our practical experience, we have seen that not that all the sales will be, covered completely and the way we want. So it needs certain handholding even to fill in that format also sometimes. So we have planned that we will actually do a workshop before we send the format to them, and we will take them through the format so that it is easier for them. Once we receive the required information, at least 80-90% of the required information, we will analyze it so that we are also ready that probably which are the areas which will require more focus in that particular manufacturing unit. Then our team will be on the ground and we'll be with them 2 to 3 days. We will go through their processes, we'll go through their utilities, we will talk to the people who are in the production floor, not only with the super boss, but the people who are actually working on the machines. We have seen that when we talk to the operator level, we get the realities. Many times that doesn't get go up to the senior management level. So we go to the machines, we talk to the operators. Once we have seen all the total production processes, then we develop our recommendations. Many of our recommendations may not require some investment also. It can be simply change of some process parameters, or maybe something which they have not observed by chance. I'll give you a very typical example. Most of the factories, we have observed the challenges of compressed air leakage. Even some of the big companies, they don't even measure it. And we calculated, and when we show that how much energy you can save simply by plugging all those holes and how you can detect it so easily, it doesn't require a huge capital cost, but you will save good amount of money. Definitely, there will be certain recommendation which will require some investment. For those investments, we'll also give them the tentative ROI so that the management can take a call that whether they want to implement those that particular solution or not. So typically, we have seen that if we give 10 recommendations, at least 8 get implemented. They select, okay, we're ready to start implementing it. Then we will be hand-holding that particular company to get those 8 recommendations implemented on the shop floor. And our people will be visiting every month to them, get in touch with them. If they're facing any technical challenges, it's not only that monthly visit or meeting. In between also, they can contact us. We will give them our solution to them. And every month, there will be a measurement. And we will see that whether the intended benefits are coming or not, right? And let me tell you that this measurement and showing that, yes, it's working, it excites the on-the-ground people and the senior management. And many times we have observed that some of the recommendation which they thought that they will implement later, they agree to start implementing those also in advance. At the end, we'll again measure the improvements, and there will be a final report that what is the final GHG emission saving we could do.
A lot of times I think we're too focused on trying to jump over some of the things that are, we call it sort of the low-hanging fruit, or the things that we can do with at relatively low costs within the production to ensure. And that's what a lot of these efficiency programs are really based on. Have you ever come across, or are you learning things that they're informing back too, right? So I would imagine there's sort of a learning where you're bringing some of the best practices and ideas, but you're also getting information back from them. What I'm hearing is you're really in a collaboration with the facilities who know their production better than anyone else, and their unique machines or their unique products they may be making. Some of it's not unique, but some of it may be specific, and you're learning from them. Does that show up in your work as well?
Many times during the discussion, we say that when we are going as a consultant to any of the factory, but believe me that the factory people, they know best about their machines, their processes, their products. The only advantage which we have is that we get a chance to work with maybe hundreds of companies like them. And most of the people who are working there might have worked in 2 or 3 companies. And that's our advantage, right? We bring in the learnings of so many years of people who are working in that team, so many years of experience that we can bring in. However, many times we get surprised by the, kind of, on the ground, some unique ideas which those production people throw to us. And it's many times awesome. I mean, it's real collaboration happens when we are giving them some recommendations and they're fine-tuning it further and making it more apt for their manufacturing units, right? So, you are absolutely right that we, the team of consultants, we get also richer in our experience and knowledge by working with the people who are on the ground in the factories. And it's a real collaboration. It takes, I will say, 2 to 3 months sometimes to break the ice. Once they are, with us, and then it's a full team game. So we never say that it's a PwC or Bluewin. Bluewin is our partner. So it's a PwC Bluewin team who is doing it. We say that there is a CP team. It's a common project for all of us together. It's a common target we have taken to reduce the GHG emission.
Really putting a sort of empowered task force on the site that includes the facility, as you said, that they know their business and they know what they're doing, and it's also bringing them into engagement and listening as well, listening to them. So Phil, with that, tell me a little bit about when you all were reviewing this program, what stood out to you, and what in particular makes this something that you believe was meeting the goals of the Climate Solutions portfolio?
The first thing is the honesty. And I said before, we're looking for big savings quickly. And we were inundated with solutions that were going to save 100% of water and 99% of energy. So 12% immediately grabs your attention, because this is something, and also this is 12% delivered, it's experience. So this isn't, in terms of the way these projects were, they can probably find theoretically 40% savings if everything was done and everything was done perfectly. But the experience is they managed to deliver 12% savings. And the way we operate in terms of our assessment criteria is we look at the effectiveness, which is that 12%. We look at the potential reach of any solution. So how much of the industry can this theoretically cover? And then we look at the potential scale up. So we estimate that the tiers 2 and 3, which is the wet processing, the fabric manufacturing, the spinning, covers round at about 65-67% of the entire GHG, greenhouse gas emissions. So the reach is huge here. So 12% of that is massive. And then when you look at the scale up, this isn't one facility. This isn't a startup. This is something that's already mature and proven. The way it's being worked is that there'll be dissemination of best practice, there'll be reports, there'll be shared learnings. So we think this is something which, from that, what many people would think was an underwhelming figure of 12% saving, there's massive potential for this to be really, really effective.
I'm really glad you reiterated those three pillars of our decision-making: effectiveness, reach, and scale, because I think that as we're reaching out to more partners and trying to educate solution providers and programs and technologies out there around what we're looking for, we want to kind of bring, I think, even investors. I mean, I was at a family office meeting this week where their team for impact investing had a really interesting thermal heat technology, and I had the same thing that you said, which was, is this a theoretical removal of carbon, or is this proven? Has this been tested out already? What can we look at? And so you're educating me as I'm out there in the field too, because there's a lot of great ideas and plans and marketing decks for proposals for investment out there. And I'm sure you're getting those in the process. And yet what we're not trying to say these are bad, what we're trying to say where we are and what we're ideally looking for is something that has that proven effectiveness. Or is there some way in which we might be able to support you to get that proof point? So I'm going to turn it over to Pauline a little bit to talk about that process, because I think this particular program, as you were looking at this, you could check that effectiveness box. But tell me a little bit more about, again, not to say that, I always feel like, hey, this total carbonization of this sector, let alone the planet, is going to take all actors. We want everybody excited and working. We don't want to make anybody feel bad about where they are in their stage of development. But we're going to bring them on a journey, towards educating what we're looking for, so they know, if I can get these proof points, if I can get better data, that I'm going to be more attractive to an organization like AII, who's really trying to pick those effectiveness programs. So Pauline, I just kind of took a little wind out of your sails. Can you expand a little bit on that thinking for us?
I don't want to repeat what Phyllis actually explained it very well. This project has all three things, right? It has proven effectiveness, and those percentages are impressive because of its reach. So we're really multiplying the per facility impact by, the amount of facilities it is applicable to, and then looking at what is the potential of reaching all of those facilities in a scale plan. And as Arindam has laid out, the project is quite simple. It takes a lot of work, but it is scalable. And then that's really what we were focusing on. And I think the other element that, of course, is very important for us as a grant maker is, yes, this project hits all of those three things, but why is it interesting? That's the other thing. What is it going to help the sector do next? And on the one hand, of course, it's the impact that we know it's going to deliver from an emissions reduction standpoint, but it's also the learnings. And I think particularly looking at some tier 3 facilities, which is very new for AII, and for the sector, it's quite an untapped an area of energy efficiency. So we're really keen to kind of learn what are the key reduction levers there, and being able to disseminate those learnings after this project is concluded. And that's really where we take the grant funding and its impact, and we kind of give it back to the sector. That was also a key interesting point for us that informs the decision making.
The ability to bring this work into that, we call it tier 3. A lot of others, in the sector will know that, but really this is the processing of raw materials into yarns, right? This is the spinning. And as you mentioned earlier, it might be ginning, I'm sure with other types of materials, there's other processes that are involving heat and electricity. If you can reach more tier 3s, again, for that reach and scale, it's what Phil said, it's like even a low % of savings by a wide number. And we just haven't been, AII has not really been as much in the tier 3. And so as we're getting more visibility and transparency in the supply chain and start to be introduced to those facilities through partners like you, it's something that we can replicate, right? We can continue. So what are you seeing in terms of how bringing you all into the climate solutions portfolio and providing funding, how is that expanding or helping you reach your goals?
Talking about the this particular project and also talking about the industry as such, as Pauline mentioned, it is extremely scalable. So although in the first year we are targeting 10 facilities in 2 countries, but the potential of this particular solution is to jump to 45 facilities and 5 countries in the next year. And uh, the way we have already described it in our application also, 26 onwards, it can be 90 facilities in 9 countries. So if you actually calculate the cumulative number, it will be a great number to look at. Uh, as PwC is present in, I will say, almost all major textile manufacturing countries, we'll be able to leverage the strength of our network and the strength of their connection with this industry. We are already doing it in several other projects, and that's the aim. We want to make that this solution spread across many countries, and in each of the country go deep. So that's the way we want to scale up.
One question I wanted to back up to, or one point that was made around effectiveness for any listeners that aren't really specifically knowledgeable about this, or maybe a program or a venture out there that wants to apply. What does effectiveness mean in this case? How are you measuring and proving it so that's a verified carbon emission reduction? Tell me a little bit about that.
At the beginning of the project itself, we'll decide about the KPIs, that these are the KPIs which will be monitored across the project. And it's not mere number, it needs to be also supported by the supporting document. So just taking an example, if you are taking the electricity from the grid, it's not only the number of, okay, the manufacturer has mentioned that this month or this particular week, their total power consumption is this much. No, we will also look at the electricity bill which they receive. So we want to make it, uh, very much trustworthy, if I can use the word trustworthy, that the numbers are not coming from air, or it's not only the reported numbers. Those are backed by sufficient documentations. So this will definitely ensure, and I hope that it will be successful at the end.
I appreciate you taking the time to kind of explain that, because I know there are, as I'm out there also meeting, and I know Pauline and Phil, you're bumping into people. You had a great discussion at Textile Exchange with great ideas, really helping them to understand, what we need from you in terms of really that proof point, that verified proof point. So, Phil, as we're talking about, expansion and this kind of work, like, what are you hoping to see on the back end of this project? What would success look like for you with this partnership with AII and PwC India around this work?
We would anticipate getting the immediate benefit. So the mills that are in scope, we would expect from the previous experience of PwC and Blue Wind to deliver those approximately 12% savings per mill. But more importantly, it's a case of getting that information and disseminating it. And as Arindam says, you work in partnership with the mills, and you create an army of sustainability warriors, not just working with senior management. And people move factories. People's careers now don't take working in the same place for all their career trajectory. People move around. And as this scales, the also coming back to the scope of this is beyond tier 2. So a lot of work has been done in wet processing, but less so in fabric construction, and less still even in tier 3. So I think the learnings from the spinning and from the knitting and weaving, those will be very, very useful. And we'll be getting reports back from PwC. This is not like a secret it's their information. It's information that's going to be of benefit to the rest of the industry. So particularly the learnings from Tier 3 and the fabric construction part of Tier 2 will be very useful for the industry. But also just the working in new areas, in new geographical areas, spreading this out, and it's all doable. All the tools exist. That's the exciting part about this. We don't need a new invention. Now, we welcome new inventions in the wider program, but all this is relatively low-hanging fruit, and it's implementation that is the thing that's going to make this work. So, I'm excited, and I think I'm very confident the immediate project will work, but I'm even more excited about the ripple effect of this in the coming years.
Pauline, I wanted to call out a little, maybe elephant in the room, but it also helps explain a little bit how AII is thinking and working, which is if I'm sitting on the outside of all this and I'm excited that AII is making grants to solutions, I might look at like PwC India. PwC, they're a huge multinational, consultancy. Like we're giving a grant to a huge, but the way that I've been thinking about it also is that we're operating on the behalf of also the brand retailers as the industry. We have all these partners around us. We have lead partners to the Fashion Climate Fund, but we have like 50 plus other companies that are coming in and out of project work with us in countries like India and Bangladesh. They could do something like this on their own. They could go contract directly. A brand retailer could contract directly PwC. But as I see it, what we're doing is really kind of creating this approach where this is a collaborative outreach, where the benefit of this is now through grant-making dollars, not locked into some proprietary contract or relationship with one brand retailer in PwC India, but it's actually now this open source, publicly available learnings on behalf of the industry. Does that, as you were, and I'm sure you guys were grappling with, like some grant dollars are going to flow to small upstart kind of concepts, and some are going to be partnering and contracting big partners like PwC. Does that align with your thinking around this? And maybe Phil, you have a point of view on that too.
Yes, I think the key thing is that the grant dollars are to cover the costs of the work that is going to benefit facilities, right? So if it wasn't for our grant funding, the either brands or facilities would have to fund this work. And that is, a model that already operates. But what we know from AII's experience is that whenever you try to do something new, sometimes there is hesitancy to participate in a project, and being able to kind of do it for free, essentially on the behalf of the facility, it is free for them to participate. That often kind of, helps them get over the hurdle of participation to do something new. So for the, tier 3 component, that is particularly the case because these types of programs are not as well known in that tier of the value chain. And additionally, a lot of the work that we do at AI is often brand led. And as you mentioned earlier, that work focuses on tier 1 and tier 2 because that's where most of the transparency is, where most of the facilities are known. So again, that kind of makes those projects easier. But with something like this, you need a little bit more support because we have to dig into who those tier 3 facilities are and to be able to approach them. So that's where the grant funding is really useful. And yeah, I fully agree with your point that this is not just one brand or one facility. It's really leveraging a wide range, and it is open to all. And we've kind of looked at facility lists that we have and look to prioritize those that we think could really benefit from this, that have a lot of potential, and to make sure that we're kind of benefiting a broad range of facilities, brands, and stakeholders in this project. And the learnings as well. I think when you do something on a one-to-one basis, those learnings remain in-house, and that's really the most important part for us with all CSP projects, is that because they are grant funded, they are made open source, and that's so important if the sector is going to really move forward with decarbonization at scale.
What I heard from you really is the facility is the beneficiary, and I think that's the key point, is that AII, the intention of AII's Fashion Climate Fund and the use of those funds in the Climate Solutions portfolio is to facilitate and incentivize facilities to get into the journey of decarbonization with specific tools and programs like this one that we're talking about today, which is a great way to bring them into something that moves them on their journey. So they are indeed the beneficiaries. And it's reminding me also, and maybe we're going to close out in a minute, so maybe this is a good tee up for Phil too a little bit. When we started AII, which was just 5 years ago, it's crazy. I was meeting with a sustainability lead at a specific athletic footwear company out of Germany. You can guess which one. And they brought up a great point, which is there's just not enough technical expertise and capacity to do the work we need to do in the regions. And I was like, or do we just not know them yet? Or have we just not resourced this whole ecosystem in a way to actually bring all the great partners that are doing this kind of work together? And also with resources, we can then almost put out RFPs to say, hey, we want to do this work. Does anybody out there who's an expert or in this space? Maybe you're not working in textiles, but you're working in industrial heat in another sector, or maybe you are a textile expert, but you didn't have the bandwidth to go into Bangladesh yet. This was always our intention. And I think that's exciting to see that we're bringing capacity of partners like PwC India and Arindam bringing you specifically into this work. So in a closeout, with sort of the call to action, I guess I'll tee it up to Phil next, is for listeners of this podcast and the work that we're trying to do with the Climate Solutions portfolio and all this. Phil, what do you think is the call to action from this particular project, but also just in general as we're reaching out across different partners in the value chain?
What we're looking at with this project is we're looking at scale, and PwC are a big company, and I've heard some people question why aren't AII funding smaller organisations? Well, it's because we're trying to make the biggest impact we can. So if I wasn't sitting on the advisory council, I could apply for a grant because I do the same work that Arindam and Blue Wind do. I work with factories to help them identify opportunities to save water, energy, chemicals. But I could apply and I could do a handful in a few years. These guys are going to do hundreds in a few years. So what's better for the planet? Working with a big company or working with a little company? And what I would say, though, is that we've got to make changes with what we've got now. And that's what the PwC project is doing. But we do need to help innovate, and we do need to look at new solutions because, what we're doing here is making something less bad. We're not making the industry good. We're making it less bad. We've got to be absolutely straight about that. And we need innovation to make things good. But we've got to be realistic here that innovation takes a long time to scale. I worked for Quartos, who have the tensile fiber now held by Lenzing Lyocell. And that's been a great success story in my working lifetime. So that's come from nothing to being the first new major fiber introduced to the industry in my working lifetime. And it's been so successful, it represents less than 1% of the fiber mix. Now, I'm just saying that to illustrate the challenges with millions and millions of dollars of scale. But we do need to fast track those new things to get them to be more than 1% in 30 years. But we do have to realize that what we're having to do is things at scale with the tools we've got available at the moment. And my final point as well is that not related to the PwC project, but we do have to put a lot of effort into circularity. One thing that we've got to be aware of is the volumes are too big, volumes of virgin materials are too big, and we've got to really, really step on the accelerator with circularity. So it's complicated, which we're trying to help the new things, the existing things, and the circularity things, and we're trying to juggle this and make the funds work. But to get the best bang for our buck, we're supporting volume things in many cases.
Part of me that ran the Cradle to Cradle Products Innovation Institute, focusing on circularity and and working a lot in the apparel sector on that. Really, that speaks to me too, because those recycled content or upcycled materials become the input to material efficiency, sometimes next generation materials, depending on what the inputs are and where they are in their stage of development, but also then next generation preferred materials. And those are three of the key points that we had in our carbon roadmap to net zero around the impact of materials on carbon. So thank you for calling out that circular flow input. That's going to be increasingly important as we reach out for more solutions to the climate solutions portfolio. Pauline, anything to add to that?
No, just that, we're very excited to kick off all of these projects, and we're very close to having all of the facilities lined up for this one. So just it's great to talk about it today, but obviously even more excited to be part of it happening.
All right, Arindam, take us out. What is your call to action for the listeners today?
I would like to close with 2 points. First, if people are thinking that whether they will jump into this GHG emission reduction part or not, I think they are making a big mistake because it will be an entry barrier to international business. It is not about that whether you are doing good for the world or Mother Earth. If you want to remain in the business, you need to reduce the GHG emission. There is no choice, first of all. Secondly, and might be interesting for the manufacturer specifically, our solution not only reduce the GHG emission, but it also help the manufacturers to be more cost competitive. Now, once you are cost competitive, you are reducing the cost of manufacturing. Either you can reduce the price and get much more top line, or you keep it same because it is internationally driven, you get a better margin. Choice is yours. So it's a double benefit. It's not only the GHG emission reduction, but we also help you to be more cost competitive. Think about it and join our activities.
To just kind of wrap up all three of you, I think my call to action for anyone who's listening, whether you're a brand retailer, a supplier, an innovator, a partner in a country that's doing work like this, we want all of you with us. The more we resource the team, the team of partners, the team of programs, the inputs of philanthropic and corporate treasury dollars and debt and equity funders, like all of this ecosystem grows. And I think that's the intent that we have at AII, that you'll start to see how all these projects and programs are fitting together like a tapestry. Like, we're, to use the commonly used pun of the apparel sustainability space, we're weaving together solutions, right? And they all fit, and they're all going to be growing towards this total decarbonization journey, activating and engaging facilities and listening and learning from them, bringing the next generation of solutions. Once you've accomplished efficiency, what might you take on next? Like, this is the journey that we want to be on, and this is exciting. So I want to thank Arindam and Phil and Pauline. Thanks for joining us today. And for all the listeners, if you found this, please share it with others in the ecosystem of money and programming and ventures and solutions and supply chain partners, because we want everyone who's part of this work to learn about it. It's not only on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple, so your friends can find it streaming in any of those places. And thank you all for joining today.